Jets Nation, welcome back to another Jets Media live stream. Today, we're going to be breaking down rookie minicamp. It's open. The rookies are on the field. They pick their jersey numbers. They're subject to change. Don't you worry about that. And we got a lot of fun things to talk about today because we have a special guest. As you guys can tell from the title of the video, as you guys could tell from the thumbnail of the video, we got the man that's been killing it in the Jets YouTube game. His name's Jake, and let's bring him on to get his thoughts of these New York Jets because they are loaded up in this offseason. I'm really excited to hear what Jake has to say. So, Jake, welcome to the show, my friend. How are you doing today?
Richie, I'm doing great. Thanks so much for having me on today, and I'm pumped, man. I don't think there has been a better time to be a fan of the New York Jets in about a decade, maybe longer, depending on who you talk to. So I'm jacked up, man. I'm so excited, and I just, I want to live in the now. I want to enjoy all the hype. I want to enjoy, the schedule release next week. I want to enjoy the big party for all the Jet fans in Canton at the Hall of Fame ceremony this summer. But I'm dreaming about week one, hopefully at home, the home opener, and seeing Aaron Rodgers in a Jets jersey go out there and lead this team. I can't wait.
You said it best, my man. It feels different, and this Jets fan base has been just on cloud nine. And it all started when we freaking traded for Aaron Rodgers back a couple weeks ago, and then we had the draft that weekend, and everything just went in Oprah hyperdrive. Like, Jake, we went from making live streams and stuff and content about, this report about Rodgers, this trade, what's this trade package? Doesn't it feel good that it's finally over with, and Rodgers is on the field wearing the green and white, getting his chemistry with Garrett Wilson, seeing him at New York Knicks games? Like, what's your overall thoughts of not only just Aaron Rodgers being on the Jets, but your thoughts of seeing him as a Jet, seeing him really being all in at voluntary workouts, soaking in the Garden crowd at Knicks games, at Rangers games, just going all, making his tour and his presence be felt with, by the way, a gigantic smile on his face. So what's your overall thoughts of Aaron Rodgers being here these past couple of weeks already?
He's been so impressive with how he's handled everything from the press conference to the interviews he did afterwards with the local media going on the Michael Kay show on 98.7 New York. I thought was a tremendous spot. He's done such a good job of just ingratiating himself to this fan base. And I thought the smartest thing he did was make it very clear that he didn't want to wear number 12. Even though Joe Namath said it was cool, I think it's awesome. And he definitely endeared himself to the older Jet fan by saying, you know what, this is Joe Namath's number. He understood the Jets history. And I think that goes a long way. So he's been on point. He's been perfect with how he's basically done everything his first week with the Jets, going to the games with Sauce, going to the games with Lazard and Breece Hall, being shown on the big screen and getting a huge hand from the crowd, getting a taste of what the New York sports fan is all about. He's been awesome, man. He's been great. And, I think the best thing he said, though, is, hey, New Yorkers expect you to win, and he gets it. So he's coming here highly motivated, pissed off at how things ended in Green Bay, and he still has a ton left with this team. I think you got to be just giddy if you're a Jet fan.
You really have to be giddy, and I think that's just the vibe amongst this fan base. It's just a really awesome thing to watch our fans have a reason to be excited and not feel like it's forced. Like, don't you feel like these past couple of years, it's been kind of like forced ways, like, okay, how can we twist this to the point where, okay, yeah, we might be good because of this? No, this is organic. Like, this is like Aaron Rodgers is here. And to your point about Rodgers, like, soaking in New York, I saw a lot of people saying, like, before the trade happened, Jake, they're like, oh, Rodgers not going to be able to handle New York. The New York media is going to be all over him. The city's going to be too big for him. I couldn't disagree more. I think he is made for New York City. He is made for the bright lights. You see him just with the big smile on his face. He soaks in the pressure. And like you said, he knows that we are expecting a winner. And don't you agree that New York City kind of matches Aaron Rodgers as a personality? Because he's just very calm. He's even keeled. He's very zen. I don't feel like he's at a stage in his life where anything can affect him, even the big lights of New York.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think he wanted something new, right? It was time for both sides in Green Bay to move forward without the other side. And I think he looks at this like it's a new challenge. It's a fresh opportunity for him. It got stale, 18 years in one place. Look, all due respect to the great people in the Midwest, but Green Bay, Wisconsin's not New York City, right? Like Aaron Rodgers is not sitting courtside running into Jessica Alba, Tracy Morgan, Spike Lee at a Bucks game. Like that's just not going to happen. So he's been in the spotlight his entire career. He's dated supermodels. He's dated other professional athletes. He can handle New York. The thing with Aaron Rodgers that I always think gets misconstrued is that, he says he's outrageous things. It's like, nah, he just gets asked for his opinion and he's honest. But when it comes to talking ball and being a good teammate, there's not anyone that would say a bad thing about him. So, I love everything that he's done, and I think he's made for New York, man. I think he wants this challenge, and I also think because he is so smart, and he even talked about this in the press conference, I think he's well aware of what winning a championship with the Jets would do for his legacy. I've said this for months. I think one ring with the Jets is greater than like 3 if he won in Green Bay. I just think it means more to win with one, a New York team, but 2, a team like the Jets with their history, not having won since 1969, Joe Namath walking off the field in January of that year, and just the misery that's transpired for the most part since. If he's ever the guy that could do it, I mean, the closest thing we've ever had in New York to what Rodgers winning would be what Mark Messier did with the Rangers in 94. So no one talks about Messier's championships with Edmonton. I think he won 5 of them. If Aaron Rodgers wins a ring with the Jets, I mean, that's going to be the defining championship of his legacy. And he's probably already in that top 5 conversation, but I think he could really elevate himself and firmly put himself in the discussion for one of the 4 or 5 best quarterbacks of all time if he wins a ring with the Jets. And I think he's aware of that, and that's what makes this so exciting.
I'm glad you bring that up because that was the best thing about that press conference was when he kept bringing up the word Super Bowl. Like, we weren't saying it. They weren't asking him questions about the Super Bowl. He said it like, oh, Super Bowl III trophy looks a little lonely. Like, he knows, like, oh, yeah, I'm going to wear number 8 because there's only one Broadway Joe. So he really is winning the hearts of this fan base, and it's just a lot of excitement, man, because this draft was so weird for me because I'm, like, so high on the Aaron Rodgers situation that he's a Jet where it's like, I'm not as hyped up about the draft as I usually am. Usually the draft is like the peak of Jets offseason, but I'm like, I don't even care. Obviously, I care about the draft, but it was just really cool that we finally got him in the building, seeing him out there, slinging the rock with Alan Lazard and Garrett Wilson. It's just been a really awesome thing, man. He seems like he's bought in, and he seems like it's going to be a lot of fun with this Jets football team. So, guys, if you're just tuning in, do me a favor, smash that thumbs up button if you're pumped up to have Jake on the show. We're just getting started here. Rookie minicamp is underway today. We got Will McDonald on the field, rocking number 99. It's going to be a fun time to get into these rookies. So, Jake, speaking of the rookies, I want to get your overall thoughts of the NFL draft. We don't have to go into detail and giving you the grades of each overall pick, but how do you think the Jets' approach to the 2023 draft went, and overall, how you feeling about it a week later?
Yeah, overall, I'm satisfied with the draft. Look, I wanted an offensive tackle, I think, like most Jet fans did, but look, to me, there's 2 separate conversations with the draft, right? Like, you can't blame the Jets for not getting a tackle draft night. Like, they're not going to reach on someone at 15 once the big 4 were already off the board. So you want to be frustrated they couldn't come away with someone like Broderick Jones because, New England screwed them over and made the trade down with Pittsburgh? Sure, I mean, I understand the frustration, but they got a really good player in Will McDonald, and I think the Jet fans that watch more Will McDonald, you're going to understand why they decided to take him. Plays a premium position. He's the future at edge for this team if Carl Lawson and let's say Bryce Huff are potentially not on the team a year from now. So you're always investing in a pipeline at premium positions like the defensive line. So I'm really excited about that pick. And my personal favorite pick was the Joe Tippmann pick. I think he's going to start right away at center for this football team. And I think he's going to be a 10+ year starter for this team. That's how confident I am in what Joe Tippmann could do. So between him and McDonald and some of the other pieces they made, the Carter Warren selection, getting Izzy in the 5th round at running back was incredible value. I like what they did. Look, is it last year? No, but that was an unrealistic expectation. And quite frankly, if the Jets were in that spot where they had those picks, that wouldn't be good because that means you're a really bad football team. So the fact that the Jets did not need a whole lot going into this draft, it could really truly go best player available and focus in on premium positions. Like, their first 3 picks were in the trenches, defensive line, offensive line, offensive line. That's a sign of a really good team, and it's crazy, but that's where the Jets are right now. They're one of the better teams in the NFL.
Yeah, and I love that even in the first round, they decided to go add to their strength, and that's the luxury of having a deep team with not a lot of holes, that the Jets can do that, especially to a position that is one of the most important positions in the entire sport outside of quarterback. The way you neutralize a great quarterback in this conference is to get to the quarterback, especially with a Robert Saleh system that he has. It's all about getting to the QB. It makes the jobs of Sauce Gardner and all their jobs a lot easier. So I know the Will McDonald pick was a little head-scratching at first, but when you see the kid's talent, you see the length, you see the athleticism, you see the ability to just bend around that edge with speed to complement guys like Jermaine Johnson for the long term, it gets me excited. And talk about Joe Tippmann real quick, Jake. I've been wanting the Jets to draft a center since Nick Mangold hung up the cleats every year. Creed Humphrey, draft him. They didn't do it. This guy, draft him. They didn't do it. They finally got a center. Doesn't that just feel good? Do you think that he has a chance to be, I know it's like hard to like compare the man to Nick Mangold, who's like an all-time great for the Jets, but How do you feel about Joe Tippmann being the potential new franchise center? Doesn't that feel good that we potentially have that type of player?
Yeah, look, the Jets are telling you they think he's the best center in the draft class. Why? Because he was the first center to come off the board, and they used a premium pick, number 43, on him. So they're telling you that he's the real deal. I love his mullet. I love that swagger that he brings to that offensive line room. Yeah, look, I mean, is he going to be Nick Mangold? Nick Mangold's a borderline Hall of Fame player, right? So, if he's anywhere close to Nick Mangold, that's a slam dunk home run pick. But I really like him. I love the fact that he's been trained and he grew up being coached by Jason Fabini, former really good Jet, who, actually started as a rookie at right tackle for the Jets, I think, in 98. So, I love that Jet tie to the Tippmann storyline. So I'm excited for him, man. I think he's got a chance to be really good. And, I love bringing back Connor McGovern as well, getting him back at, on backup money. I mean, he's getting next to nothing. He took like an $8 million pay cut to stay with the team. He could play guard in a pinch. You obviously know he could play center, and he's really durable. So I like the fact that the Jets are going to have an open competition. I expect Tippmann to win that job, and Connor McGovern, I think, will play an important role as a depth piece on this team.
Yeah, and also as the veteran leader for Joe Tippmann to really get himself used to the NFL. And I think Connor McGovern coming back on that contract tells you a lot about this organization. The fact that they can bring back a player, and obviously the market wasn't there for McGovern, and I think getting him back for a backup value just makes this offensive line even more deep. Now, before we transition, I want to get your thoughts about one of the, fan favorites of the draft class, and it just so happened to be the last pick in the entire draft class. He goes by a name of Zach Kuntz. Zach freaking Kuntz. Whoa, before we get into it, though, we got a big dono from my man, King Cat. King Cat, thank you so much, my friend. Hit that like button. Go Jets. $100 dono. You're too generous, my friend, King Cat. Thank you so much, my friend. Everyone give my man King Cat some dono hype in the chat. Thank you, King Cat. Appreciate you, brother. Always, always, always appreciate you, my man. So, yeah, Jake, Zach Kuntz, the Jets tight end room, it's pretty filled out. Conklin, Uzama, Ruckert, even Yeboah. I mean, as a late round pick that Zach Kuntz is with this athleticism and stuff, do you think he has any chance to make an immediate impact as a rookie, or do you think he's more of a developmental piece down the line?
Look, they took him in the 7th round, right? So they're telling you they have a plan in place. They want to develop him. I think it's great value, the fact that he was there in the 7th round. I'm excited to see what he can do. I think they'll play him a lot in the preseason, so we'll probably fall in love with some of the Strebler to Kuntz fourth quarter passes that will win the Jets some games. Maybe Zach Wilson will be in the mix in the Hall of Fame game throwing a Kuntz. So we'll see what happens there. But I'm encouraged by what they did at tight end. I really like Ruckert. I like Kuntz. You got two developmental tight ends coming into their own. And then obviously I think Conklin and Uzama can still play. And I think with Aaron Rodgers, they're going to be so much better in the passing game. I mean, like Robert Tonyan was really effective with Rodgers throwing in the ball. And I think Conklin and Uzama are just as good, if not better, than Tonyan. So I'm excited to see what he could do. I think that tight end room is low-key one of the more impressive position groups on the team.
Yeah, it's very deep and it's a good mix of veterans and young players. And that's kind of the model of this whole team, Jake, is we have a young core, and now the Jets keep adding some veterans to complement the young players. And to talk about those veterans, the Jets weren't done after the draft. They go out there and get 3 new players, Billy Turner, Randall Cobb, and Al Woods, 2 of them having ties to Aaron Rodgers and the Nathaniel Hackett system. I think it was a great job. So let's get your thoughts right now of those 3 players that the Jets brought in, Billy Turner, Al Woods, and Randall Cobb. We saw Al Woods come in here on a visit last month. We did not tackle the defensive tackle spot in the NFL draft. The one piece of this defense that was missing was a big boy up the middle to help defend the run. That's what Al Woods brings. Randall Cobb, wide receiver 4 or 5 or 6 arguably. But my favorite piece about Randall Cobb, Jake, is his ability to come in here and help with the installment of the offense. And I don't know if you saw the clip of Woody Johnson speaking to Randall Cobb, but this is exactly what I've been talking about. Randall Cobb said to Woody, Aaron wants me to be his translator. Yes, that's why we're bringing him in, because Randall Cobb knows the chemistry with Aaron Rodgers better than anybody, you can argue. So I'm looking at Randall Cobb to go to Garrett Wilson and help him look at it from a wide receiver perspective. How do you get on the same page with Aaron Rodgers? Where does Aaron Rodgers expect you to be? When he does this type of hand gesture, what does he expect you to do? So I think Randall Cobb is going to have even more of an impact on this team off the field and like in the locker room and in the meetings and as a veteran presence than he is on the field. But his on the field presence, he's going to be third down, red zone guy, clutch, not going to ask too much of him. And then we all know what Billy Turner brings, his depth at the offensive tackle spot. So what's your overall thoughts of those 3 players that the Jets brought in?
Huge fan of what they did. I'll go one by one. Al Woods to me was a must. I mean, that was a guy for months Jet fans were talking about as a possibility. I always felt like they were definitely going to add a defensive lineman. That's probably the easiest position to fill in free agency. Find, a one-tech, big body defensive lineman that can help you stop the run. Al Woods is perfect in that role. You needed that, and they got it. So good to see them wrap that up. Bringing in Randall Cobb. I mean, the reaction by idiots who don't understand the Jets depth chart was hilarious 2 days ago when they signed Cobb. He's here to be wide receiver 5 or 6, and I got news for you, right? He's better than Jeff Smith or Braxton Berrios, who he likely replaces here on the depth chart. And by the way, for all the Elijah Moore truthers out there, Elijah Moore had 37 catches last year. All right, Randall Cobb had like 34 in 3 less games. So I'm not going to sit there and tell you Randall Cobb is better than Elijah Moore because that'd be silly. But like Randall Cobb, when he played last year, was still pretty effective if you look at it on third down and effective in the red zone. And he knows the offense. He's a player coach. He can help these young guys get up to speed with what Nathaniel Hackett's trying to install. So I have no issue with it. It costs you nothing. So big fan of that move as well. And then, the final move, look, Robert Turner's a good player when he's healthy, and he knows the system. Aaron Rodgers won 2 MVPs with this guy starting on the offensive line. So if the quarterback is comfortable with Robert Turner as a depth piece, I don't think there's anything to dislike about that move. For Joe Douglas to get all 3 of those guys for like under $4 million guaranteed each player, I mean, it's really good GMing right there. Now, Richie, the last thing they need to do
is this.
Bring back Quan. Our guy Mark nailed it, as he always does. They have to bring back Quan Alexander. And I think it's telling that Will McDonald is wearing number 99 at Jets minicamp right now. They're leaving number 9 open for Quan because I believe ultimately they're going to sign him back at some point here.
I sure hope so. Jake, I made a video on my channel a couple days ago. Veterans that the New York Jets should consider signing. And on the thumbnail, it was Randall Cobb, Al Woods, and Quan Alexander. We're 2 for 3, baby. And also, the Jets got to go out there and get Quan. So, do you expect Quan Alexander to get re-signed? Because that's something that hasn't happened yet. Remember, we signed him last year in the summer, I think July. And obviously, the market is not good for Quan in terms of other teams wanting him. What do you think the holdup is? Do you think the Jets and him are just trying to come to an agreement on a contract? Do you think they're going to part ways? What's your overall thoughts about that?
I wonder if Quan was like, you know what? I really don't need to go to like minicamp or OTAs because he signed. If you remember, he signed the day the Jets reported the training camp last year. I remember I was on a beach on vacation recording like a reaction video real quick to get it up on my channel. It was that late into the summer already. I think he's coming back. I think he's maybe holding out hope another team could come through with a bigger offer, and maybe the Jets have the right to match before he makes a decision. I think he's also just comfortable waiting. So I do think ultimately he's back. I hope they do it soon because that'd be awesome. And then, obviously they got Quinn Williams signed as well, and I believe that's coming. But I think Quan Alexander is going to be back at some point. I'd be a little surprised if they don't re-sign him.
Yeah, I think that's the missing piece because the Jets' defense is pretty much the same last year with the additions of Al Woods, Will McDonald, and Chuck Clark. And now we need to bring back Quan because he's that missing piece of that linebacker spot that really brought the energy and brought that like spark plug. He was kind of that guy that just set the tone for this Jets defense. So I'm hopeful they do bring back Quan. I get a lot of people asking me a timeline with the Quinnen Williams extension. And I say, I don't know for sure, but I think this could potentially go into June, July, and they're going to try to get it done right before training camp. So if there was a timeline to predict when this deal does get done, and I'm expecting him to be the second highest paid defensive tackle in the league behind Aaron Donald, to be honest. What's your overall thoughts about the extension in that timeline?
Yeah, I'm with you. I think he's probably going to get the most money given out to any defensive tackle this offseason. He's not going to get $31 million a year like Aaron Donald, but he's definitely going to beat what Dexter Lawrence beat. I think he's going to top what Jeffrey Simmons in Tennessee received. And I think he's probably going to top what Daron Payne received as well. And I think he deserves it. If you look at the stats, he's been the best player out of those guys I just mentioned. Quinnen Williams, unlike Jamal Adams, has never made it about himself. He has never gone out there and has, been a distraction for the team with his contract. Because remember, he could have been paid last year, and he was a good sport about it, showed up, had an all-pro season, and made himself a boatload more money, a la like Aaron Judge with the Yankees on a contract here. So, I really look at Quinnen as a good soldier. He represents everything you want in a player that you draft and develop. Now it's time to pay him. And I think ultimately the fact that they re-signed his brother is a good sign because they have the same agent, obviously. So I think it gets done, Richie. I think it gets done before the Jets report the training camp this summer.
Yeah, there's everything's going perfect for the Jets. And then there's 2 missing pieces that would just put the whole offseason into like top tier, and that's getting Quan back and extending Quinnen, and then let's freaking go, right? It's just like, let's ride this momentum through the roof. Now let's pivot a little bit back all the way, which feels like so long ago, which is free agency in March, right? Like, doesn't that feel like it didn't even happen last year? There's so much that happened in between. So really the Jets go out there and get Alan Lazard and McCole Hardman. What do you think they're going to do, that their additions to this wide receiver room is going to do to complement guys like Garrett Wilson? We also heard, because I want to get your overall thoughts of the wide receiver room, we heard from Saleh today, and he said for the 1,000th time that Corey Davis is going to be a Jet this year. So what's your overall thoughts of them keeping Corey Davis, not freeing up that $10 million, adding a guy like Allen Lazard, adding McCole Hardman, trading away Elijah Moore, which, by the way, got us Joe Tippmann, and Garrett Wilson going into year number 2?
Yeah, I'm not surprised that Saleh said what he said about Corey Davis. I mean, once they didn't sign Odell and they didn't even draft a receiver, it was like, all right, well, Corey Davis is going to be on this team. If they took Jackson Smith and Jigba at 15, let's say, I think it's a different conversation. So I definitely think Corey Davis is going to be here, and he should be here. Look, has he lived up to his contract? No, but when he plays, he's a good player and good leader. And he's someone that I think is a good blocker and can help this team. And he's probably slotted into what his role now should be, right? He's either wide receiver 2 or wide receiver 3. When Corey Davis was the wide receiver 2 with the Titans his last year there opposite A.J. Brown, he nearly had 1,000 yards with Ryan Tannehill throwing him the rock. So now you have Garrett Wilson, who's your true one of the 5 best receivers in the NFL, in my opinion, when it's all said and done. That's how confident I am in Garrett Wilson. You put him next to Allen Lazard, who's been really solid, has a great rapport with the quarterback. Davis, Mecole Hardman's your burner who could do a lot in this offense. And you're talking about Randall Cobb and Denzel Mims rounding out your depth chart. Like, that's pretty good right there. So I feel very good about the weapons that they have in that room. And then you factor in the tight end room, and those 2 guys in Conklin and Uzama should be factors in the passing game. I think if you're a fan of the Jets, you got to feel really good about just the offensive arsenal they put around the quarterback.
Yeah, I really agree, man. I think the depth at the receiver room, especially with Randall Cobb just being that missing piece of the depth, where like wide receiver 5 is pretty much set now. We got a lot of undrafted free agents that can compete for that final spot as well. It's an exciting time, man. Now, I want to get your thoughts about the overall offense with Nathaniel Hackett, because Peyton Manning was on the Pat McAfee show, and he said something so important. And I know when I bring up Peyton Manning, first thing everything Jets fans say, oh, screw Peyton Manning. He got us Adam Gase. I don't give a crap what that man has to say. But I don't know. What he had to say about Aaron Rodgers and the reason why he thinks it's going to work with the Jets is something that we have to keep in mind as Jets fans. The reason why it's going to click, not like midway through the season, but it could click immediately in week number 1. And what Peyton Manning said that's so important is the continuity of the offense here. The fact that Nathaniel Hackett is the offensive coordinator here with Aaron Rodgers, and it's basically like Aaron Rodgers' system, is fantastic. Rodgers does not have to worry about unlearning 15 years of ball and figuring out a whole new verbiage system, a whole new route concepts. It's the same system he's been running throughout his entire career. It's the same system he won 2 MVPs with. So what's your overall thoughts of the continuity of the system of the Hackett and Rodgers connection, bringing in Randall Cobb, even bringing in Billy Turner and Allen Lazard to help with the installment of the offense to get everybody up to speed? And you expect this offense to start clicking right away? Because me personally, I'm not going to expect, like 40 points in week 1, but I think there's a chance that this offense is clicking right away because it is a new system, but the players that are going to be in the system have been in the system for quite some time.
Yeah, look, I look at it like this, right? Like Rodgers was in one place for 18 years. He's leaving that place to go somewhere else. It means a lot that the offense he's going to be running is the same offense that he's known his entire career, with the same play caller that he won 2 MVPs with. And I know LaFleur called the plays, but go listen to Aaron Rodgers talk about what Nathaniel Hackett did for that offense. And Rodgers and him said, we helped install the plays. LaFleur was the play caller, but the installation of the plays, specifically in the red zone as well, I was on Nathaniel Hackett, who I know was a terrible head coach, but it's a different job when you're the OC. And Rodgers being comfortable is a major reason why he was willing to come here in the first place. So you have Hackett, you bring in Tim Boyle to that QB room. He can help, teach this offense to the younger players on this team as well. You obviously add Cobb, you add Turner, guys that have been around that know what Rodgers wants to do. It's huge. And Nathaniel Hackett and that comfortability that Rodgers has, that makes a big difference, because if you remember when Tom Brady went to Tampa, they were 5-5. And it was not all, sunshine and roses right away. We think of it as like, wow, this great team, they won a championship. They went on a run. They were 5-5. The Jets in the AFC cannot afford to start 5-5, right? You were talking about a team that probably doesn't win the division at that point, and maybe with how good the conference is, could be challenging for one of the last wild card spots if they start 5-5 through the first 10 games of the year. So it's important for this team to get off to a good start. They're not going to go 17-0, but getting off to a good start is important. And I think the point Peyton Manning made in that interview was like, I expect Aaron to get off to a fast start because he's comfortable with what he's doing now with a better defense around him and really good weapons.
Yeah, the continuity is so important, and I'm really excited, man. That the Hackett system installment gets me giddy up. There's someone in the chat that brings up a good point. I will get your thoughts. We talked about the wide receiver room, but I think one of the most underrated pieces of the receiver room is McCole Hardman. This guy says Hardman is going to ball with Rodgers throwing him the rock. Hashtag Jets up. Appreciate you, man. What's your thoughts on McCole Hardman? Because he's got speed. He was on the verge of like breaking out with the Chiefs last year before he went down with an injury. He brings a different speed element, is a vertical guy. We know what Rodgers does. He is an elite thrower of the football down the field, deep throw accuracy. So what's your expectations with McCole Hardman, and how is he going to, mesh well, and will he break out this season with the Jets?
Yeah, I really am excited to see kind of what they do with him, right? I mean, you could do him in end arounds, you could throw him the rock in screen games. I think part of the reason why he signed with the Jets is because the Jets promised him, hey, we're going to use you in different ways than you've been used in Kansas City. We're going to give you more of an offensive role. So I'm excited, man. I mean, McCole Hardman was breaking out last year. You're 100% right, and then he had the injury. Go ask Patrick Mahomes about McCole Hardman, what he has had to say about him. So I'm excited to see what he could do. I think he's going to have a real impact if he stays healthy.
Cornbread says, what true free safeties are available? So, we signed Al Woods, we signed Randall Cobb, we got Billy Turner. We're wanting to get Quan Alexander. There are some fans that are still hungry for a new safety. What's your overall thoughts of the safety position for these Jets? And do you think they should consider bringing in a veteran? There's a guy like Adrian Amos, who I had in my video a couple days ago, not because he's a Packer, but because he's a captain, he's 30 years old, and he's a guy that could fill in that spot for depth. So do you think the Jets should consider bringing in a veteran safety, or do you like the way the safety position looks right now?
Yeah, so I'd be interested in potentially adding another veteran safety. I don't know if they're going to do it, though, because based on the Jets' actions, they seem to say that they don't truly value that position. Look, you mentioned Amos. That's the guy I was thinking of. I have not really looked and done a deep dive on who's left at this point, but I would 100% sign up for a veteran safety added this late in the offseason.
So you wouldn't start Ashton Davis because he's the best safety in football and a superstar?
No, well, here's the thing. This is obviously not my show, but if it were my show, Jets Forever would be in the shadow realm right now.
Oh, I love it. I love it. We do need a ball hawk. Yes, we do. So what do you think is the missing piece of this defense to not only improve, but to take that next step? In my opinion, it's kind of getting turnovers and becoming a scoring defense. You saw what the 49ers did last year, Jake, where they're forcing turnovers. They're getting pick sixes. They're getting fumble sixes. They're just doing a lot to help out their offense to the point where the defense can take over a full game. And I think this defense has the capability of doing that. They were so good at limiting points up, fourth best against, putting up points. What they average? 18.6 points per game and points allowed. So what do you think that this Jets defense needs to do in order to take a step forward, which is asking a lot because of how good they were last year?
Yeah, I think you kind of nailed it, right? I think they got to force more turnovers. And, they did that at the beginning of the year when they got up to the really good start. But the back half of the year, they didn't force any turnovers. They had the one I can think of in the second half of the season is they got the Quinnen Williams, strip sack on Trevor Lawrence in that Thursday night game. And, they kicked the field goal and that was it, right? That was like the only turnover I could think of the Jets forced down the stretch. They got to turn the ball over more. That's the big step. That's what they got to do. I know Robert Saleh challenged Sauce Gardner to have more interceptions this year, which I love that. I know that, you look at this team and I think a big way to get more turnovers is to play with a lead, to be honest with you. I think you could be more aggressive if you're a defensive player, if you're up 7 instead of down 7, or you're down multi-scores like we saw the Jets in the second half. So being more aggressive and look, can the Jets figure out how to fall on a fumble? This goes back 10 years. Figure it out how to fall on a loose football, right? They should be practicing that every day once training camp starts, because it's mind-numbing how the Jets seemingly can never recover a fumble. But forcing turnovers, I think, is the biggest thing. I know the defense is going to be good. It will keep them in every game. I think it could be one of the best defenses in the league once again, if not better, if they could do that thing called take the ball away a lot more.
And a secret weapon the Jets just added to that defense to help that, Jake, is Will McDonald, who forced 10 fumbles. Not only is he great off the edge, but he has a knack of knocking the ball free. So I think that's another reason why they wanted to bring in Will McDonald, not only to be a pass rusher, but someone that can strip the ball and force turnovers, because that can completely change the outlook of the entire defense. Mutt says, Jake, do you think Chuck Clark will start next to Whitehead over Ashton Davis?
Yeah, Chuck Clark was brought in to start, and that's a low-key great move the Jets made. They gave up nothing to get him. 100% I believe Chuck Clark is starting next to Whitehead.
Yeah, I think Chuck Clark is a Swiss Army knife type of player that Jets fans are going to really fall in love with because we like our safeties. I know Jets fans have been begging to draft a safety high and this, all that, but the Jets like their safeties, man. Also, don't sleep on Tony Adams, who looked really good as an undrafted free agent last year. We got Will Parks. I know he's more special teams, but he's still on the roster, so we'll see what happens. How's it going, Richie and Jake? What's up, man? Instead of getting the edge at 15, who would you guys have taken?
I was cool with Jackson Smith and Jigma if they wanted to go down that route. Obviously, I don't know what the Jets board looked like. So, I thought if they were going to go edge in that spot, it'd be like Nolan Smith. But it's a weird feeling as a Jet fan because I just have faith in the people running the team. So it's like, I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I know more than Joe Douglas did, who had the greatest draft in the history of the franchise a year ago. So I thought once Broderick Jones was off the board, they would either trade down or take Smith and Jigma in that spot. That's me in real time watching it. But I'm cool with what they did. I'm really excited to see what McDonald could do.
Yeah, I agree. When we were on the clock, I was screaming for JSN, but when you start to really do the research on Will McDonald, it makes a lot of sense why they went out there and got him. Get Sauce 14 picks this season. Yeah, well, Jake said that they're challenging him to do that. Maybe that's the level to his game he can get up to. PJ, who's here for Jake, says, how much does Cobb really have left? Well, Jake, what he did last year with the Packers, statistically, is what I expect in a ballpark range. 35-something catches, 300 yards. I mean, we're not asking him to do much. Just be the clutch guy on third down, be a guy in the red zone, security blanket for Aaron Rodgers. So how much do you think Cobb has left in the tank? Who, by the way, is not as old as some people think. He's 31, 32 years old. That's like a veteran that's on the back end of their career, but they can still make some plays.
Yeah, 100%. Randall Cobb is not 40, right?
Yeah.
Randall Cobb is the same age as DeAndre Hopkins. I just put it in perspective for my fellow Jet fans out there, right? Both guys are right around the same age. I guess, Cobb is like a year and a half older than D-Hop if you look at their actual birth dates. But look, how much does he have left? He said it himself. He's no longer a guy that could get 100 targets in a season, but can he help you on third down? Can he help you in the red zone? I think he proved that last year. And he's not going to play a whole lot, guys. He's the backup slot receiver right now. That's his role. And he's here to help teach the offense to the younger guys on this team. So I'll tell you what, Randall Cobb's better than Braxton Berrios. I mean, maybe the Berrios truthers don't want to hear it, but I see Pierre had a great comment here. Randall Cobb would have made that catch against the Vikings, and the Jets would have won that game.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good point. And you can argue, Jake, that was the downfall of the season last year.
Yep.
I don't want to just put it on that one play, but that L, which, that play was a big reason why we lost the game, that season would have been completely different. So they go out there, they replace Braxton Berrios at first, we think, with McCall Hardman, but then you add Randall Cobb. You're kind of replacing Elijah Moore and Braxton Berrios with the guys the likes of McCall Hardman and Randall Cobb, and you're adding Alan Lazard. So, I like it.
Yeah, he basically replaces Jeff Smith, if you really want to break it down.
Exactly.
Hardman will play special teams, so you could say he's the Berrios replacement. I don't know how anyone could sit here, and Alan Lazard's better than Elijah Moore. I don't know how anyone could sit here and say they haven't upgraded that receiver this offseason. They clearly have.
What do you think of Mims? BJ says, is Cobb going to play more than Denzel? I think Denzel is going to be a very interesting player to watch in training camp to see where he fits. Because if you look at the roster of the wide receiver position, Jake, Jeff Smith is Jeff Smith, but what he did impact, or what had a role at least, was special teams. So, there's not a lot of receivers right now that I could see that can also impact on special teams. And we know Mims doesn't impact special teams. So what are your thoughts about the receiver depth chart heading into 53-man roster week number 1?
I think Mims is traded at some point this summer. I think they finally move him because you're right. You look at the guys they have in that room, other than Hardman, they don't play special teams. And I think the Jets would like to have another receiver there that could play special teams. I think Mims could be dealt. I think he probably goes out there and has another good preseason playing a bunch of, garbage men and future insurance salesmen. And I think they finally move him. I've never been the biggest Mims guy. I gave up on that a long time ago. So I just think the Jet fans that try and believe in Denzel Mims, like the Jets Forevers of the world, they're just blindly supporting the guy when he's shown you absolutely nothing to think he's ever going to be, a long-term answer at that position for this team. And the other thing is he's a free agent after this year. So if you're not going to keep him, you might as well get something for him. So it wouldn't surprise me if they try and, get maybe a late pick for him if he has a good preseason again.
And don't forget, he requested a trade. And the Jets didn't trade him. Elijah Moore requested a trade. The Jets didn't trade him, but they just traded him. And I was a Mims believer in the standpoint of, okay, when his number is called, hopefully he'll make plays. And Jake, unfortunately, he didn't. I mean, there was times last year where Denzel Mims was starting, and he would just have pre-snap penalties. He would make some plays, but often than not, I'm like, damn, Denzel, maybe I overvaluated you. Maybe I was a little too hyped up about you, and you're just not stepping up. And it's unfortunate because what he does bring is a good blocker, but you need to do more than that.
Hey, too many penalties, man. Like, you nailed it, man. Like, he comes in and he's like immediately like offside, false start. It's like, what are we doing, man? What are we doing here, Denzel? So look, I like him. I'll root for him. I hope I'm wrong. I hope he's great. I hope he's I hope he's the next Jerry Rice, like the Jets Forevers of the world seem to think he is. But I just don't think he's that good. Like, I mean, that's ultimately what it comes down to. Like, most Big 12 wide receivers, especially ones from Baylor, they end up busting in the NFL. And I think, unfortunately, Denzel Mims is one of those guys.
I mean, we could blame the salmon if we want to go down that route.
Yeah, look, you want to blame the salmon, fine, but either way, I don't think Denzel Mims is ever going to be what the Jets thought he was when they used the second-round pick on the guy.
Stay away from the salmon if you ever visit One Jets Drive, because it's the reason why Mims is a bust, okay? Just kidding. But there is a position group that I want to really break down with you, Jake, and it's on both sides of the ball, and it's the trenches. I feel like this is the deepest unit that we've seen on both sides of the ball for the Jets in the trenches in a long time. I mean, starting with the offensive line, I mean, it's to the point where we're going to be cutting players that other teams are going to be lucky to add to their, starting rotation even. So, like, when you look at the tackle spot, we have 5 tackles. You can even throw an AVT's name in there because he plugged in a tackle. I don't expect him to play there, but he is a guy that showed capability of playing at the tackle spot. You got Mekhi Becton, who's probably the biggest X factor of the entire offensive line. You got Dwayne Brown, the seasoned vet. You draft Carter Warren. You drafted Max Mitchell last year. You brought in Cedric Ogbuye, who you plucked off, I think, Houston's practice squad last year. I forgot who. And he plugged in. It wasn't great, but he was serviceable. So, like, those are 5 offensive tackles. And then you kick inside. You got AVT, who's a dog, who's coming back. You got Laken Tomlinson, who wasn't great last year, but he's an Iron Man. Hopefully he could bounce back, who's a former Pro Bowler. You draft Joe Tippmann. You bring back Connor McGovern. You sign Wes Schweitzer. You sign Tristan Colon. It's like, oh my gosh. I mean, we can't fit all these boys. So, like, what's your thoughts of the depth and the overall perception that Joe Douglas, and this is what I like to say, he's preparing for the worst. He saw the tragedy of the Jets' injury bug last year on the offensive line, and he is making sure that if that has to happen again, he's prepared for it.
No doubt. And thank God, right? Yeah. I mean, like last year was an unmitigated disaster with the injuries. And, you look at what they did this week with the Billy Turner signing to that tackle room and just continuing to add depth, getting McGovern back for what's backup money now to help supplement the Joe Tippmann pick that we talked about earlier. Like, they're really, really deep on the offensive line. And the big thing for the Jets O-line is Mekhi Becton. If Mekhi Becton is what he was as a rookie and he stays on the field, I think it's a total game changer for this entire offense. I mean, when the Jets traded up for AVT, it was Becton and AVT on the left side for a decade together. And that's been derailed, unfortunately. But now Becton looks great. His mindset seems awesome. He's obviously now playing for a contract because they declined the 5th-year option. Mekhi Becton, to me, is the entire key to that offensive line. But as you bring up, look, if he goes down or Dwayne Brown can't make it through 17 games because he's 38 years old, you have some depth there. And you play the best 5 guys. You have legit competition this summer that's going to be fun to follow because of the amount of depth you have in that offensive line room.
And the Jets are going to put the best 5 in the camp from camp on the starting lineup in week number 1. So if you had to guess, who's the starting 5? Who's at left tackle? Who's at right tackle? Because I think we can predict who's in the interior. I think the question is more left and right tackle.
So I think it's going to be Dwayne Brown, assuming he's on the team. I think when he decided to come back, it was under the understanding he would be, the left tackle for this team. And look, he played well last year, despite the fact, his shoulder injury got worse and worse. He could have just taken the money, had season-ending shoulder surgery in August and been done with it. And he chose to keep going. So I will definitely always respect Dwayne Brown. I think he's going to be the left tackle. I think the left guard will be Laken Tomlinson. I think the center is going to be Joe Tippmann. I think the right guard is going to be Elijah Vera Tucker. And I think Mekhi Becton, assuming he's healthy, will win the right tackle job over Max Mitchell or Robert Turner, whoever they want to compete him with. And he's going to be the right tackle.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's exactly the 5. Dwayne Brown at left tackle, Laken Tomlinson, Tippmann, AVT, and Becton. And the depth behind those fellas, man, it's really, really special. So hopefully they can continue to keep going. And then flipping over to the defensive line, I mean, this is another unit that the depth is cool because we use all the depth, right? With the offensive line, you don't want backups to ever touch the field. Like, I love you, Max Mitchell. I love you, McGovern and all you boys, but we don't want to see you touch the field this year. But on the defensive side of the ball, all 10 touch the field. So what's your thoughts of the overall perception of the philosophy of the rotation? The Jets trying to keep everybody fresh. The Jets trying to keep everyone's legs ready to go and all their energy up for fourth quarter abilities to go after the quarterback when hopefully we have some leads, which is what Douglas and Saleh are expecting, right? Because getting Al Woods is really rounds out this defensive line. When you think about the edge rushers, you got JFM who starts up at defensive end on first down, run stopping looks. You got Carl Lawson still on the team. Do you think he's going to go elsewhere? Do you think he's on this team still this season? Jermaine Johnson, Clemens entering year 2, Will McDonald as a rookie, Bryce Huff still on this team, Solomon Thomas. I mean, it's deep, Jake. So what's your overall thoughts of this defensive line?
Yeah, it should be one of the best units in the league. I mean, the amount of investments they made in it, the salary that's attached to it. I mean, they're about to give Quinn Williams, the highest contract a Jet has ever received. He's going to be part of that. You look at Carl Lawson. I do think he'll be on this team. He's making $15 million a year. I think you look at some of the other guys, right? Like you're expecting a leap from Jermaine Johnson. You're expecting more from Michael Clemens. You're expecting Will McDonald to be a contributor, probably in key third down pass rushing situations. You're expecting this defense to go out there and be led, obviously, by Sauce Gardner and DJ Reed in the back end. But, the pass rush getting home is what's going to make this defense special. And there's no excuse. Like, they need to go out there and they need to dominate games, right? And not just play well against bad offensive lines, like be the difference in winning a game against a really good team. Like, if you're playing the Chiefs and it's Sunday Night Football at MetLife and you got a 3-point lead late in the game and Mahomes has the ball, yeah, Mahomes is probably going to get it done. But you know what? The reason why you pay all these guys is so there's that opportunity to end the game with a big sack, force a turnover, get a fumble. Like, that's why these guys are here. You're in the AFC. You need an elite quarterback, which they have, and they need a fourth quarter pass rush, which there's no reason why they shouldn't have it.
Yeah, and I think that's what the vision is with the Will McDonald pick, is they have Bryce Huff, who was proven to be a closer last year. Remember the Buffalo Bills game where he strip sacked Josh Allen? Exactly the vision that we're expecting from Will McDonald late in the games, icing it up. And I think that's where they really want to unlock Will McDonald, because as much as we all love Bryce Huff, he's not under contract beyond the season. So the Jets had to look long-term with that Will McDonald pickup. Now, when it comes to this Jets team, Jake, there's a lot of hype around this team. Not even just in this fan base, but around the NFL media. Like, the whole world is kind of talking about the Jets. ESPN, NFL Network, every radio show, every NFL talk show is talking about these New York Jets. We're expected to have 5 to 6 primetime games when the schedule releases this coming week. So, like, how does it feel that these Jets are being talked about in this way, that expectations are rising? We're seeing some, like, way too early power rankings, and I'm seeing the Jets in the top 10. So what are your thoughts of the Jets from the national scope being talked about with expectations being pretty darn high?
Yeah, look, they should be, right? Rex Ryan said it best on Hard Knocks, 12 years ago. The best place to be is when expectations are high. They should be high. Like, you added Aaron Rodgers to a team that should have made the playoffs last year if they had competent quarterback play. So now you have another year of this young core. You supplemented your team in free agency in the draft. You should have expectations to be a playoff team, to go on a run. Yeah, the AFC is loaded, but I'll tell you what, I look at the Jets schedule, and other than Patrick Mahomes, I don't think there's a single quarterback that we look at and go, yep, that guy is definitely better than Aaron Rodgers. Like, that's how good this guy is. He's motivated. He's all in. The expectation should be high, and I can't wait to see how they handle it, because it's going to show a lot about what Robert Saleh is, or who he is as a head coach. But the Jets know there's a target on their back. There should be. Guess what? They should embrace that, like they did with Rex all those years ago and had great seasons under him. So I'm very excited, and the expectations rightfully are high.
Yeah, when the expectations are high, the pressure is through the roof. And this team is young, even though some people like to push a narrative that we're becoming an old team of washed-up veterans. Like, evaluate yourself and actually study the team, because we are one of the youngest teams in the league. What's your thoughts of their ability to handle the pressure, handle all these primetime games, handle being the talk of the NFL, handle that expectations and trying to meet it? Because every year, it seemed like for the past 5 or so years, it's been that Jets fans are expecting, like, all right, maybe we can exceed and play some competitive games in December, or maybe we can squeak into the wild card with some miracle. So what's your thoughts of this team in terms of the personnel and the captains and the leaders mixed with the young guys? Do they have the personnel to be able to handle that pressure that it comes to, meet those expectations?
I think so, and I think it's a big reason why you bring in a guy like Randall Cobb. You go out there, you bring in some guys that are familiar with what Aaron Rodgers wants. But you also have guys on this team that have played in Super Bowls before. Right? Like CJ Uzomah's played in a Super Bowl before. CJ Mosley came over from the Ravens, right? Like DJ Reed came over from the Niners and the Seahawks. Like, these guys have played in big games before, right? So I think ultimately, when you look at where the Jets are right now, yes, they are built through their young talent, but they have a pretty good mix of veteran players as well on this roster. So I think they do have that leadership. I think they have a nice blend. And I'll give you a great stat. even after signing Randall Cobb, the idiots who don't know anything about anything are like, oh, the Jets are just signing washed up guys. The average age of the Jets skill position players, including Cobb, is 25 years old. So look, Rodgers, yeah, he's old, but you know what? A lot of old quarterbacks have had tremendous amounts of success late in their career, and Rodgers could still go out there and play at a very, very high level. He's won 2 of the last 3 MVPs. He's got a great young core around him, an elite defense. I'm excited, man. I think every Jet fan should be pumped. You have a legitimate chance to contend for a title.
And what are your thoughts of the haters that keep saying Rodgers is washed, Rodgers is too old, like
they
he's
don't know
not the
football.
self?
There's an anti-Jet stigma out there. People love to hate on the Jets. You're a Knicks fan, so you get it too. It's LOL Knicks, LOL Jets,
LOL Mets.
Yeah, LOL Mets for sure. You got to like when you've been down as like the Jets have been. There's a stigma that comes with being the Jets. And Robert Saleh talked about this when he went on Joe Beningo's podcast, and it was facts. You are not going to get the benefit of the doubt from the officials, from the media, from the fans of opposing teams until you win. You have to prove it. And I think that motivates the Jets. And I think that's awesome to have that as a motivating chip. And Rodgers is one of the all-time greats. He hears everything, man. He's like Brady. He's like Jordan. They hear those slights, and they use that as motivation. The last time Aaron Rodgers was slighted, he won back-to-back MVPs. And now he's coming to prove that he still not only can play at a high level, but can be one of the baddest MFers on the planet. And that's what he's bringing to this team, that swagger that they have missed for far too long. And look, it's going to be awesome because when the Jets shut up all the haters, all that I ask from those haters, specifically these bozos that are invading your comment section here, all that I ask is for you to cry into a jar and allow us to drink it live on the air, because I want to drink your tears, because the Jets are coming and they have a legitimate chance to win the whole damn thing.
Absolutely. Say that again, Jake. You're getting me freaking hyped up. And there's one thing that I'm kind of welcoming. The better the Jets get, the louder the haters are going to get.
Oh, it's a good thing.
Welcome the haters.
Hey, Reggie Jackson said it best like 40 years ago. They don't boo nobody. It's like the Jets having more haters. You know what that means? That means they're doing something right, because for the first time in a while, people aren't just laughing at the Jets or hating on the Jets. There's a big difference.
That's exactly, Jake. You just hit it right there is my point. It used to be like, oh, poor Jets. Like, they can never get out of their own way. Like, they always mistake. Adam Gase. Oh, these poor Jets. And now it's like, oh, wait, they're seeing the Jets rise, and we have, like, rival fan bases and just blindly, like, bringing us down because they feel like they see us as a fan base finally getting excited in a rightful way, not like a blind optimism way, like, oh, maybe Zach Wilson can turn it, right? That's just like we're rooting for Zach and we're hopeful. That was us last year. We don't know. It's an unknown. This is not an unknown. Like, we know what Aaron Rodgers is, and we got people trying to bring us down, and they do not affect it. And the way I look at it, too, is I predicted the haters because they're so predictable, Jake. When the whole Aaron Rodgers trade didn't happen, all we heard was from the haters was what? Oh, the Rodgers trade's going to fall through. He's going to retire. He's not going to be a Jet. You think he's going to be a Jet? Yeah, right. And I said to their face, he's going to be a Jet. You're not convincing me otherwise. And your narrative now is going to switch when he does get traded here that, oh, he's washed. He's old. He's washed up. He's not going to be good anyway. They're too predictable. They're too predictable.
Yeah, the goalpost moved from, oh, he's never going to want to go to the Jets to now, well, he's washed anyway. It's like, oh, yeah, well, you realize he still was like top 10 in touchdown passes thrown last year, despite the fact he played with a broken thumb on his throwing hand, a rib injury, and a knee injury. And, oh, yeah, he still played every single game. Like, it's, to me, it's funny. And like, there's someone in your comment section here is like, oh, we're idiots because we don't agree with both of you guys. We don't like it when that money could have went to Quan. Hey, bozo. Quan Alexander made, I think, $1 million last year. Aaron Rodgers is not preventing you from re-signing Quan Alexander. Like, it's stupid stuff like that I just laugh at. And I really sit here and I just cannot wait for the season, because Aaron Rodgers is going to go out there, and I believe he's going to have an MVP level season for this team and enjoy every second of it, Jet fans, because all the people who told you the Jets are always going to be bad, all the people who told you he's never going to want to come here, now they're saying he's washed, he's done. And he hears all that, and it's going to be motivation for him to go out there and absolutely stick it to everybody on the schedule.
And last year, Jake, I mean, Aaron Rodgers was without Nathaniel Hackett. Aaron Rodgers was without Davante Adams. I think those two were pivotal pieces to his 2 MVP seasons. And I'm not saying we have a Davante Adams, or maybe we do, because the guy Aaron Rodgers literally compared Garrett Wilson to him. It said, oh, he's in and out of his breaks, reminds me of a Davante Adams. The fact that he's reuniting with Nathaniel Hackett, the fact that we have a young prodigy wide receiver in Garrett Wilson to fill in that Davante Adams role, to be a volume target guy, Last year, the guy literally did not feel comfortable. He felt slighted. He had a broken thumb, and all these things went against him. And look at the numbers. They weren't MVP. They were 26-12 interception ratio. He has the greatest touchdown to interception ratio in the entire freaking NFL.
It's
like
nuts, dude.
Some Jets fans wanted Derek Carr. That's what Derek Carr does consistently. 26 touchdowns and 12 picks. That's a down year for Rodgers. What?
Yeah, it's crazy. Like the best stat about Aaron Rodgers is in his career, he's 80-10 when the Packers allowed less than 20 points. 80-10. 80-10.
And how many points did the Jets give up last year, Jake?
18.6 points per game. So I'll say this, look, I think Aaron Rodgers is going to have a much better year than what he had last year. But let's say he puts up his exact 2022 stats in 2023 for the Jets. The Jets should easily win 11 or 12 games with how good their defense is. Like last year, the Packers defense, I think, was 17th. Rodgers is joining a Jets defense that I think was 4th in scoring and basically top 5 in every statistical category. Now they should be better on defense. Another year in Saleh's system, another year of Sauce, another year of all these guys playing with one another. Will McDonald being added to this defense. Jermaine Johnson taking a step. Like, this defense should be better. And you added Aaron Rodgers. So the expectation for the Jets is win the AFC East and give yourself a chance to have the highest seed possible to go on a real run to a championship.
Yeah, and another misconceived conception of the Rodgers acquisition that I don't like is some people think he's coming here to be the savior, and we need him to be an MVP to win. Newsflash, we don't. We have an above-average quarterback last year, even borderline average quarterback. We're in the playoffs. Like, that's how stacked this defense is, like Jake just broke it down to you. Like, the team is so good around Rodgers where we just need him to be a game manager and be a good quarterback to protect the football, and when we need him to make a play in a clutch spot in the fourth quarter, win us the game. If he is MVP Aaron Rodgers, then watch the frick out. I don't think Jets fans are expecting that. We can keep that in the back of our mind. That's a possibility that he could be a 48 touchdown to 3 interception type of player that he was just 1-2 years ago, right? But thing is, Jake, people think that Rodgers is coming as the savior. This isn't 3 or 4 years ago when the Jets have no depth, no talent on this team, and we're trying to bring in a quarterback to save the team. Rodgers is good, the missing piece, and Rodgers said himself that he doesn't feel like he has to be the savior because of how good he is. So what's your thoughts of the whole conception that some people are trying to push this thing like, oh, Rodgers, Jets fans think he's going to be an MVP? Like, no, we just need him to be a quality above-average quarterback, and we're in the damn playoffs.
Yeah, and I think it'll be better than that. Like, he doesn't need to be the best quarterback in the NFL for the Jets to have a really good season. Like, that's first and foremost. That's why he's here. Like, he recognizes the talent on this team. Do I think he has a chance to win an MVP? I really do. I mean, I think Rodgers is coming here with every intention to not just, prove he still could play, but to win another MVP, to absolutely ball out. I think the Jets have the weapons to do it. Obviously, health is the biggest factor here, but I think with Aaron Rodgers' mindset and with the fact that the Jets have the pieces in place, I think he's coming here to prove he's still one of the 5 best players at his position in the league, and I think he's going to get MVP votes when it's all said and done.
Yeah, and I think what fuels his fire is the doubt, and that it kind of makes a chip on his shoulder. The way the Packers treated him, the way that people are counting him out, the people are saying that he's washed up, oh, he's going to the Jets, blah, blah, blah. Like, I think that's part of his ability to take that next step. And when the Packers drafted Jordan Love, what did he do? 2 MVPs. Right. I mean, I hate when people feel like forget the fact that was literally 3 and 2 years ago. We're not talking about back-to-back MVPs in 2015 and 16. You may have a point if that was the case, but that's not the fact. Like, literally a year removed from back-to-back MVPs, and do I need to bring up the stats? Because, Jake, every time I look at those stats, I can't comprehend them. I think they're Madden stats. I don't think they're real. Doesn't make sense in my Jets fan quarterback brain that there's a quarterback on this Jets team that just recently put up a season of a 48 touchdown and 4 pick ratio. How is that even possible?
It's crazy, man. I mean, you really go through Aaron Rodgers' numbers. I mean, it's nuts. I mean, you said it. Like, he's got the best touchdown to interception ratio of all time. And, really, if he wins another MVP, which is possible, he'll tie Peyton Manning for most MVPs won by any player. Peyton won 5 in his career. Don't think for a second Rodgers is not astutely aware of that fact. So, hey, look, he's coming, man. All these idiots in your comment section, all these trolls. I mean, troll now because you got nothing to say when the New York Jets come through and they're one of the best teams in the NFL this year.
And another thing I say to the trolls is that the fact that he's too old. I mean, there's literally evidence out there that this works. What do the Tampa Bay Buccaneers do, Jake? They go get Tom Brady. Won a Super Bowl. What do the Denver Broncos do, Jake? Oh, they go get Peyton Manning, who, by the way, is the same exact age as Aaron Rodgers right now. What do the Broncos do, Jake? Oh, yeah, they just won the damn Super Bowl. What do the LA Rams do? I know Matthew Stafford's not up there at the age, but the Rams were a quarterback away. They felt like they were just one missing piece with a veteran team to go all in and win. They go out there, they get their veteran quarterback in their first year. What happens, Jake? They win the Super Bowl. I'm not going to sit here and say it's guaranteed the Jets are going to win the Super Bowl, but that's three, literal examples that happened the last 7 years that older veteran quarterbacks going to a new team has won championships.
Yeah, look, history is on the Jets side with this. You even go back to Brett Favre with the Vikings, had a great season when he was healthy. By the way, he was having a good season with the Jets too when he was healthy. And that Vikings team went 12-4, went to an NFC title game. Joe Montana with the Chiefs went to an AFC championship game. Look, the goal with Rodgers, you want to win a Super Bowl. I understand that, but it's hard to win a championship. So you can't sit here and tell me if the Jets go to a championship game and have a chance to get to a Super Bowl, it wouldn't still be a great season. So I'm with you, man. I'm excited because history is on the Jets side, and the fact that Aaron Rodgers is all in. He's showing up to OTAs. He's been a great teammate. Guys are raving about him. Salah moments ago talking about how it's just different with him in the room. It's so exciting right now. And to all the trolls, get your trolling in right now because it's not going to last that much longer because the New York Jets are coming, man. They really are.
The Jets are coming, man. And Jake, it's been a pleasure to have you on here, bringing your energy. I could tell that you have this burning passion just brewing in you about these Jets, just like me, just like all the Jets fans in the chat. It's been a pleasure, as always, to have you on the show, Jake. Guys, if you're not subscribed to Jake, which I'm assuming everyone is, I mean, if you're not subscribed to the Jake Asman Show, what the heck are you doing if you're a Jets fan? Even if you're an NFL fan, if you want to troll Jake, go over there to troll Jake and see what happens. Jake knows how to handle you guys. So if you guys want to check out Jake's channel, it's down below in the description. Jake, what do you got cooking on your channel the next couple of days that you want to tell the people about?
So you're actually the first person that I'm going to tell this to publicly because I just got the email confirming it during the show. Mike Greenberg, everyone's favorite Jet fan on ESPN, will be joining the show on Monday. So look for that on the channel. We'll have shows tomorrow and Sunday talking about the Jets. So we got a lot planned on the channel. Just search Jake Asman on YouTube, smash that subscribe button, and you'll be notified when we go live if you turn on notifications.
Greeny, hopping on the Jake Asman Show Monday. I'll be tuning into that. That's great. Congratulations, Jake. Guys, if you enjoyed this show and you enjoyed the guest of Jake Asman, and hopefully we'll have him back soon, please do your boy a solid favor and simply hit that like button if you want to see more great Jets content. It is a great way that you can simply support this channel by hitting that like button. I got a lot of Jets content coming your way, guys. I am going on a little trip this weekend. I'm going to South Beach to watch my New York Knicks take on the Miami Heat. Flying out tomorrow morning. Let's go Knicks, Jake. So I will be gone. If you want to catch me, I'll be on Knicks Media making content about my Knicks all weekend long. I'll be back Monday just in time, just in case I miss anything about the Jets. So excuse me my little hiatus over the weekend because it's Knicks time, baby. Let's go Knicks.
Hey, Richie, good luck, man. That's awesome. I'm glad you're making the trip down there. And you and half that building is going to be Knicks fans, at least maybe more. So can't wait to listen and can't wait to root on the Knicks, baby. That's awesome that you're going.
MSG South. We're going to be representing down there, baby. Let's go. All right, guys, that's going to wrap up the show now. Let's go Jets. Catch you next time. Peace.